Am I an idiot for not letting my sister announce her pregnancy at my wedding even though I got proposed to at hers? Me, 28, and my sister, 32, have never really gotten along that well. My parents were divorced and so we never really spent much time together during our childhood. Once we got in our early 20s though that changed and we actually got pretty close. Both of us were in serious relationships and we would always talk about our dream weddings. Fast forward a few years and my sister was finally getting married to her high school sweetheart. I've never seen her so happy and I knew this was going to be one of her most cherished moments in life. That was until my dumbass ex-boyfriend proposed to me at my sister's wedding. Needless to say I had absolutely no idea. I rejected his proposal and ended up leaving him after a few weeks of him showing no signs of him being sorry at all. My sister was rightfully upset with the both of us because in her eyes we had just taken away her spotlight on a day she's been dreaming of for years. I felt so bad that I ended up giving her around half of what she paid for the wedding. A little much I know, but when you have your whole family against you, you'll do anything for things to go back to normal. It took a couple months but our bond came back and I ended up meeting my now fiancé. Our wedding is in a couple weeks and my sister has been making jokes about announcing her pregnancy at my wedding. At first the jokes were funny and I thought they had no real threat to them, but after today it was pretty clear she was not actually joking. My mom called me telling me that my sister said she was going to announce that she was pregnant during the speech as part of our wedding to get back at me for what I did during hers. I texted my sister saying that it was completely unfair to not just me but especially to my fiancé, and neither of us were to blame for what X did. She won't hear me out and I told her if she won't drop it then she won't be allowed at my wedding. I guess she's been crying to all our brothers saying I'm a witch and a shitty sister for not only ruining her wedding but for not letting her get a tiny bit of revenge. I get it. It must be hard to have that happen at your wedding, but how should it be my fault? I didn't tell him to do it and my now fiancé definitely didn't either. My dad and brothers said I was being petty and that it was only fair I let her do that considering what happened to hers. My fiancé is on my side though and thinks it best I don't let her come, or at least not come to the reception. I know it might seem a bit unfair for me to not let her get back at me, but I didn't pay the $15,000 pity money just for her to try to ruin my wedding years later. We are both adults and at this point I think I could be being overdramatic. A pregnancy announcement and a proposal are two very different things, but I won't lie and say it wouldn't hurt my feelings if she did do that to me. Update. So today was my wedding and I'm glad to announce that it went amazing. I don't have much drama to update you on since I've just been blocking people in my family who have been being mean to me about the situation. My husband and I ended up uninviting my sister, my father and older brother. We felt it was more important to us to have a fun and non-stressful wedding rather than try to please my sister and do some sort of compromise. I definitely got a ton of poop for it at first since I couldn't exactly tell everyone in my family why they were uninvited. I didn't want to ruin her moment again lol. But when my sister announced her pregnancy a couple days ago I could finally tell them my side and pretty much everyone agreed with my decision. You're the idiot. The irony is too much for me. I don't care what you say. You stole the show at your sister's wedding, which is whatever, but now she is asking to do the same and you say no. You must live on another planet, you ungrateful donkey. Not the idiot. Reading the original post. The first red flag is that you did nothing wrong whatsoever and still got punished enough to feel you had to pay back half the wedding, likely thousands of dollars. You did what would be expected of someone who thought it was inappropriate. You rejected the proposal and broke up with him over it a couple weeks later. Your sister sounds vindictive and jealous. I'd disinvite her too. Any woman who announces anything at someone else's event has deep-seated mental issues they need to work on but likely never will. Too many imagined princesses out there. Is she being a hypocrite? Let me know in the comments. Now, am I an idiot for telling my soon-to-be sister-in-law that they're asking too much of their wedding guests? My husband, male 21, and his brother, male 25, have always had a great relationship. His brother moved away when he was younger and even though they're now 2 hours apart, they still regularly talk and play games online together. My husband is one of 6 kids and they all are still in contact and on good terms. His parents are also still married. About 3 years ago his brother introduced us to his girlfriend at the time. She was originally from a different state but moved here to be with him. Everything was fine until about a year into knowing her when she started getting snotty and entitled. For one thing, she refused to work and expected him to support her and her mother whom she had brought with her when moving here. She began going through people's things, making snide comments, and she even told me that I was privileged and said she would use our daughter's name for her daughter while I was in labor. She also wore sweatpants to our wedding and fell asleep at the reception. For their wedding we were told we need to purchase medieval costumes, drive the 2 hours to their town, bring food for the reception, play outside games, and just recently she added that we would need to take pictures on our phones for them since they can't afford a photographer. I mentioned to her that this all seemed like a lot to ask, especially considering they had refused to come for any family events prior to this, and she told me if I didn't like it then I didn't have to come. I should add that my husband is in this wedding. She stopped responding to me after I said their attitude was hurtful and started telling my mother-in-law that I was hurting her again and making up stories about us kicking them out of our house. This has begun to affect my husband's relationship with his brother now and I feel bad, but at the same time, all of my in-laws are happy I said something to her and appalled at how snotty she and my brother-in-law have been lately. Am I an idiot for saying something? Edit. I feel like I should add that my current sister-in-law, female 15, has a birthday the day before their wedding. She specifically asked for it not to be on her birthday weekend before they had a date picked because she wanted all the family here for her birthday. Now they are saying we need to come up there the day before, on her birthday, to help prepare their food even though they know it's her birthday. Update, the wedding was today. We arrived at the ceremony about 15 minutes before it was supposed to start, as we had been told there was no rehearsal and to just be there when the other guests would get there. We arrived and my husband was greeted by his brother with "Where have you been? We've been going over everything and you weren't here." Again, we had been told there was no rehearsal, but apparently his brother had decided the night before that they would be going over everything an hour before the ceremony, and we were not informed. Anyway, my husband goes back to be with the wedding party and we sit down. They did end up getting a photographer, but she was very pushy and kept snapping in people's faces to get their attention. The ceremony was fine. Typical wedding ceremony, aside from the Renaissance outfits. But then we went to the reception. The reception was outdoors in a barn. It had been raining all day, so there were a lot of bugs. When we got there, no decorations had been set out and there was only one table for people to eat at. This was a group of 4:45. 2 hours after we got there, they started bringing the food in. Apparently they had assigned one of the bride's older relatives to make all the food, and somewhere along the hustling and bustling of making food for all those people, the poor man had a heart attack. He was rushed to the hospital and he is okay, but they had absolutely no backup plan. They ended up cooking all the food themselves when they got to the reception. They cut the cake without announcing it, so the photographer had to hastily run over there to get pictures, and after the cake cutting, the bride's entire family disappeared and we did not see them for the remainder of the time we were there. Her mother did come into the barn every half an hour or so to smoke a cigarette, but that was it. There was no dancing, no bouquet toss, because they carried lanterns instead, and the guests that were left kind of just stood around. Needless to say, it was chaos at its finest. Thank you to everyone who commented on the original posts. I'm sure we will have many similar family gatherings in the future. Edit. So it turns out the man who had the heart attack is the boyfriend of the bride's mother, and he faked the entire thing. Apparently he's known for that. And the mother of the bride lied about taking him to the hospital so he wouldn't have to make the food. Edit. As if it wasn't bad enough, we found out that the mother of the bride didn't take any pictures at the wedding at all, and she just waited until brother-in-law's parents put their pictures on Facebook so she could post them as her own. She also blew up at brother-in-law at the reception because no one was talking to her, even though she kept leaving to go smoke in her cabin. They're a very odd family, not the idiot. You will have years of pleasure talking to your friends about the absurdity of the event and others. Hopefully, the brothers will grow closer together over time. He will need your husband's support. How would you have handled this insane family? Let me know in the comments. Now, am I an idiot for telling my sister she's stupid and ruining our dad's life? I, male 23, have 2 younger siblings, Anna, female 21, and Chloe, 19, female. We've always been close. Our parents split up when I was 9 and our mom became pretty much a deadbeat. I've seen her maybe 5 times in the last 10 years, so my dad, male 50, raised us, and it's pretty much always been us and him. Even after he started dating Fiona, female 44, when I was 15, our dynamic stayed mostly the same and there were pretty much no issues aside from some adjusting. Chloe recently moved out after living at home for her first year at college, and a few months later, my dad announced that he and Fiona were engaged and going to get married. IMO, everyone expected this would happen since they were together so long, but Anna was very upset. She's been complaining to everyone about it for weeks, but mostly me. She says it's like he was just waiting for us all to grow up and get out of the house so that he could move in with his new woman and be a family with her instead. She also doesn't like that there's an almost 7-year age gap between them, because he and our mom were high school sweethearts, and our mom was actually a few months older, so she feels like our dad is replacing her with a younger model. She's never liked Fiona because she was still hoping my parents would get back together when he and Fiona started dating. Mom was less of a deadbeat then. Anna also thinks there isn't much passion between them, because every time she was over at our place, they barely touched and just treated each other like polite acquaintances since we were kids. She also doesn't see why he has to move her in before they're even married, because Fiona is financially well off and doesn't need the stability. She wants to be able to spend this summer with just our dad and us, without anyone else moving in yet. She told me the other day that she's planning on trying to set him up with one of her friends' single mom instead, who she feels is much more age appropriate and likable than Fiona and whom she thinks he'd have more chemistry with. She's planning on telling him this weekend and wants me to back her up. I just lost my patience and told her to leave me out of this and that she's ruining his life by trying to set him up on some blind date as if he's a child. She started crying and told me all she wants is what's best for him because Fiona's the wrong woman and he's making a mistake. But I said I don't see how this would help when he's already engaged and that she's being stupid. She called me an off for being so harsh and hasn't talked to me since then. I admit part of me is also bummed that we won't have as much of my dad's time anymore and that things are about to change dramatically, so I wonder if I should have been more validating or supportive of Anna. But I just don't think our dad did anything wrong or that talking him out of this will do any good. Am I an idiot? ETA. The main reason I'm second guessing myself is because I too would love another summer with just our dad, but I have my own place now, so it's not like I have nowhere to go if things get unbearable with Fiona here. I don't think they will. She's always let us kids do our own thing, so it's not that big a deal to me. I also do see where Anna's coming from about him and Fiona not being very romantic in front of us. Our parents were much more touchy-feely. Ike, if this means she's the wrong woman or not, but TBH, since my dad doesn't seem to care. I don't either. I don't see her as another parent or anything, but we've personally never had a problem with each other, and I don't think Chloe does either. I do agree my dad deserves whatever he wants to be happy at this point. Update. A lot's gone down, so I thought I should update. I tried talking to Anna once more about not doing this blind date thing, but she refused. So as folks suggested, I went and told my dad I had to warn him about something. Here's where I maybe messed up a bit. Fiona was there and maybe I should have said it privately, but there was no time. He asked what was wrong and I just couldn't get the words out, so I said it's about the engagement, and that it was best he heard it from Anna. Well, of course he went to her room to get her. We all sat in the living room. Chloe was already watching TV there, and after some coaxing from him, she just exploded and started crying it wasn't fair. Things were happening too fast. He just decided to get engaged without even consulting us, and we were just supposed to go along with it like we're still children. She said we never consented to our mom leaving us and had no say in them getting back together, so that we should have at least had a say in who he started dating next. PLS note, this isn't what I personally feel. Anyway, my dad just looked shell-shocked. Seeing his face made me feel god-awful. He looked silently at Fiona. She suddenly burst into tears. This scared me because I've never seen her cry. My dad's rarely weepy and I've even seen him cry more. Dad held her hand, and she just kept sobbing, I told you, I told you. I felt worse. One nice thing was Chloe got emotional to see this, so she actually went over and gave Fiona a hug. I felt like doing it too but thought it'd be weird. My dad hugged Anna and said he was sorry he never realized how she felt. He said it's too late to set him up with anyone. I managed to have Anna add this. If he was going to be with anyone it would be Fiona, but if this engagement was really hurting her the two of them would talk about whether it can be postponed. He did say it's a done deal, she's moving in this summer though, since she already ended her lease and made arrangements. Long story short, he arranged family therapy. Fiona actually suggested it and said she was willing to participate if it would help. I don't think I need therapy, but I think I'm going to do it just to help. Chloe agreed and Anna hasn't said anything since this happened, but I think that's a sign she's accepted it. Things were okay for the rest of the evening. Thank God no blind date. Dad asked if I was okay and thanked me for doing this. He said he was proud of me. I teared up lol. He and Fiona sat on the porch for the rest of the night with his arm around her. I'm honestly relieved. Things have been calm since then. Anna's still quiet, but at least she's not avoiding us or objecting to therapy. The first one starts early July and he's booked it for just us four for now. Thanks for all the support, everyone. I'm really hopeful things will get better from now on. ETA. While it's true my dad never asked us for permission to date Fiona, I remember him saying many times that he was starting a relationship, and that his biggest hope was for us to be okay with it, and if not, he'd do whatever it took to help us get there. We weren't necessarily thrilled, but I know none of us had objected. Though maybe Anna just didn't think it would stick Ike. I also don't think they should have to postpone the marriage, but if that's what everyone sees fit to do, I won't object. ETA 2. Just want to clarify, my dad and Fiona are still engaged. No one's called off or postponed the marriage yet, which I'm glad about. Postponing was just something my dad suggested in order to take more time to help Anna if it was needed. But they're definitely still getting married and he made it clear he'd never marry anyone but her. I'd make it clear during the whole confrontation that these were just Anna's thoughts and I don't share them. Not the idiot. Anna is in the wrong here. But I think what's contributing to her skewed notion of what Opus's dad should do is that Anna is transitioning to adulthood, and the family is entering a phase where it isn't going to be like it was when the kids were children. And that's a sad realization. I think individual therapy may also help Anna in addition to family therapy. Her holding on to the hype of mom returning is seriously hampering her ability to move on to the next stage of her and her family's life.